Today on Bridge City News, you might want to keep your winter tires on for just a day longer. Environment Canada has issued a blizzard warning for southern Alberta tonight. We will have the details. States of emergency remain in effect in Ottawa and Montreal as floodwaters continue to rise, causing officials to close Montreal's Gallipo Bridge. And hundreds turned out for the annual Lethbridge MS Walk to raise funds to fight the disease.
Your nation, your province, your southern Alberta. From the heart of Lethbridge, it's Bridge City News with Paul Arthur.
Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us. Hundreds came out to participate in Lethbridge's annual Walk for Multiple Sclerosis this morning at Henderson Lake Park to raise money for research and resources for those affected by the autoimmune disease.
Our hope is to one day end MS, and that is done by fundraising. And this is our biggest fundraiser of the year here in Lethbridge. It's our 27th annual MS Walk. I think it's our 4th year here at Henderson Lake. We have such an amazing crew here in Lethbridge that continually fundraise year after year. And our hope is to one day have this event with no MS involved and just to celebrate the cure. 2018 saw a lot of advancements in health, and we're hoping that 2019 continues that search for a cure. Today we have red shirts and white shirts, and the red shirts are people that have MS, and it's so cool to see the ratio of people supporting those in our community with MS.
Canada has one of the highest rates of MS in the world, with an estimated 77,000 Canadians affected. While it is most often diagnosed in young adults aged 20 to 49, younger children and older adults are also diagnosed with the disease. The 7th annual Lethbridge Bike Swap took place today at Exhibition Park as locals got set for a new cycling season.
The event is about giving people the opportunity to sell their good used bikes, donate bikes they're not using anymore so they can stay in use in the community, and giving people access to good used bikes. Because there is a bike sale at 2:30, and our donations will go off to Immigrant Services here in Lethbridge, and Bike Bridge will have a few of those bikes as well that they'll tune up and have in the sale today.
The Bike Swap is a non-profit event that returns half of the profits from bikes sold back into the community to fund safe cycling and make informative tech check bikes more accessible. The University of Lethbridge has appointed Dr. Erasmus O'Kine for a second 5-year term as Vice President of Research. Under his direction, the U of L has placed consistently among the country's top 3 undergraduate research institutions. In 2017, research funding to the university hit $20 million, up substantially from previous years. O'Kine has also had success in increasing the number of partners from industry, non-governmental organizations, government agencies, and other universities by about 60%. The Lethbridge Steel hit the gridiron once again this afternoon for an inter-squad game at the University of Lethbridge Stadium. The team is gearing up for another Western Women's Canadian Football League season. They will play their first home game on May 4th. An Alberta RCMP officer from the Wood Buffalo Detachment has been charged following a disturbing alleged off-duty road rage incident. Sue Hewson, Executive Director of the Alberta Serious Incident Response Team, shares the details.
Having reviewed the investigation and the provided Crown opinion, I have determined that the officer involved should be charged with 4 criminal offences. On April 25th, 2019, Constable Barnaby Saragelli, a member of the RCMP Wood Buffalo Detachment, was charged with the criminal offences of dangerous driving, assault with a weapon, unlawful confinement, and pointing a firearm. It is alleged that on December 28, 2017, Constable Saragelli was off duty and driving his personal vehicle just west of Barhead, Alberta, when he encountered another motorist and became embroiled in a driving dispute. During the course of the incident, it is alleged that Constable Saragelli drove his vehicle in a manner dangerous to the public, confronted the woman operating the other vehicle, pointed a firearm at her, and confined her roadside. Constable Saragelli appeared before a justice of the peace and was released on conditions.
Alberta police continue to search in the Bragg Creek area for a Calgary toddler and her mother who may have been killed. Aaliyah Sanderson, 22 months old, and her mother Jasmine Lovett have not been seen since April 16th. Police arrested a suspect whom they haven't named, but released him yesterday without any charges. However, a man who identified himself as Robert Leeming told CTV News that he was the person who was questioned by police. The 34-year-old says he is the owner of the townhouse where Lovett and her daughter live, and while the situation is stressful, he maintains his innocence. States of emergency remain in effect in Ottawa and Montreal, where soldiers and volunteers are hard at work battling rising floodwaters. The rising river levels forced officials to shut down the busy Gallipo Bridge onto the island of Montreal. It's not clear when it will reopen. Meanwhile, a bit of relief for southern New Brunswick, as the 5-day forecast is calling for floodwaters to slowly recede and to drop below flood stage in Fredericton by Thursday. A University of British Columbia engineer has joined forces with researchers from the University of Michigan to try to make scraping a windshield less of a chore. Assistant Professor Kevin Gollivan of UBC's Okanagan campus has led a study published in the journal Science about a coating he helped develop to potentially make de-icing easier, even for airplane wings and power lines. He says the coating, called Low Interfacial Toughness, or LIT, will first be used to coat the inside of freezers equipped with automatic ice makers so fridges become more energy efficient. Police in California allege that a U.S. Army veteran drove his car into a crowd of people earlier this week because he thought they were Muslims. 34-year-old Isaiah Peoples made his first court appearance yesterday, where the judge ordered he be held without bail. The defense, however, contends Peoples is innocent because he had been suffering from PTSD after a tour in Iraq.
Mr. Peoples has been charged with 8 counts of attempted murder. 4 of those counts have an enhancement for causing great bodily injury. Those charges carry a sentence, a maximum potential sentence of life in prison. There is very appalling and disturbing evidence that at least 1 or 2 of these victims were targeted based on the defendant's view of what their race or religion may have been.
No, absolutely we are disputing that this was an intentional act. This act clearly was a product of some mental disorder or mental defect that caused this to happen. So these announcements by the police, even the chief of police, that this was an intentional act and he admitted that he intended to do it, we dispute that, we will challenge that. We don't think it's worth, quite frankly, any consideration.
At least 5 people are dead, and Mozambique's government is urging people to head to higher ground immediately as heavy rains blast the country in the wake of Cyclone Kenneth. Nearly 3,500 homes in parts of the country's northernmost province are partially or fully destroyed, with electricity cut, some roads blocked, and at least 1 key bridge collapsed. Aid groups say nearly 700,000 people could be at risk as the floodwaters rise. Militants linked to the Easter Sunday suicide bombings in Sri Lanka opened fire and set off explosives during a raid by security forces on a house today. 15 people were killed, including 6 children. There are widespread fears of more attacks following the coordinated bombings of churches and luxury hotels that killed more than 250 people nearly 1 week ago. The largest youth robotics competition in the world is taking place this weekend in Detroit, with thousands of students from dozens of countries taking part, including a First Nations team from Ontario.
So this is the first World Championship here in Detroit, Michigan. We've got 700 teams from 35 countries around the world participating. It's a robotics competition, but as all the kids will tell you, it's about a lot more than the robots. Over 40,000 people will join us this weekend for the first World Championship in Detroit. About half of them, 20,000, will be student competitors, and the other 20,000 will be their adult fans, supporters, and spectators who hear about it and come down and join us for the weekend. Here in the United States, about 12% of schools have a first team, serving 18% of the students, so there's still a lot of kids out there that don't have easy access to our programs. And that's our passion, that's our mission, to make these programs available and accessible to every kid everywhere.
And that's why we're so proud to be here. We want to show our culture, we want to show that we're just as capable as everyone else. We're a team of all First Nation kids from Wukumakong. We are all Ojibwe, Odawa, and Potawatomi, and we're the first of our kind, really, to come to the World Championships. We've never seen an all Indigenous team make it to the World Championships. We're kind of blazing a trail for Indigenous students to follow in our footsteps and to know that they can experience the World Championships because they deserve it just as much as any other team.
And recapping one of our top stories this hour, states of emergency remain in effect in Ottawa and Montreal as floodwaters continue to rise, causing officials to close Montreal's Gallipo Bridge. And a look at weekend weather. Just when you thought old man winter had left us, Environment Canada has issued a blizzard warning for southern Alberta. We can expect 10 centimeters of snow overnight, with a northwest wind gusting from 60 to 90 with a low of -3. Things should begin to clear late tomorrow morning, with the wind becoming light in the afternoon and a high of +2. Acupuncture has been around for many years, but Canadians are not overly familiar with the process. Hal Roberts sat down with Dr. Krista Coombs to discuss how acupuncture is able to help with a number of health issues. But first, here's a look at what's happening in and around your community.
Here's your Bridge City News community calendar. The annual Pottery and Glass Art Spring Show and Sale is being held from May 2nd to the 4th at the Westminster Community Hall in Lethbridge. Discover unique gifts and home decor made by local artists such as jewelry, stained glass windows, dish sets, mugs, and so much more. Admission is free. For more information, visit the Old Man River Potters Guild Facebook page. Come for a fun time and help support a worthy cause. The Kidney Foundation Southern Alberta branch is hosting a 3-kilometer and 6-kilometer walk or run on Saturday, May 11th at Henderson Lake Park. Register individually or as a team by calling 1-866-956-2724 or go online to kidneywalk.ca. And that's your Bridge City News community calendar.
Most of us are very familiar with the terms acupuncture and Chinese medicine, but we probably don't know a lot about it. We'll try and remedy that today. Joining me in studio is Dr. Krista Coombs, Doctor of Traditional Chinese Medicine, registered acupuncturist and owner of AcuPlus Wellness Clinic in Lethbridge, which has been voted the best acupuncture practice in our city for the last couple of years. Congratulations and welcome to BCN, Dr. Krista.
Thank you, Hal.
So you have a little bit of a background in biochemistry and physiology. How do you incorporate that into your healthcare practice?
So the physiology, of course, would play a major role in my practice because I work with people's anatomy, physiology every single day of my life. The biochemistry is huge when it comes to understanding how processes work in the body. So I need to have a really strong working knowledge of that in order to be able to direct people on a better path of health.
I was involved in a very bad car accident many years ago, head-on collision, and acupuncture helped me a lot in my recovery. Mm-hmm. I have to admit, it really helped me a lot on my shoulders, my neck, my back. But some people are a little nervous. They say, I don't want to be a human pincushion. Are you kidding me? They get a little squeamish, a little nervous about that. Can you put our viewers' fears at ease and maybe talk a bit about acupuncture and how it helps people?
When I have new patients come in, I always say, welcome to your first torture treatment. Because everybody is nervous. But I would say easily 90% of my patients sleep once the needles are in. It's that high. It's so relaxing. There's a lot of biochemical change that happens when I use them. It's almost completely painless. The needles are just these tiny, very flexible filiform needles. They're not even like your hypodermic that you would get your shots with. They're not hollow. I tap them in, I place them gently, leave you maybe with a heat lamp.
Does it help the muscles to really relax?
That's one thing that it does, absolutely. Mm-hmm. It's a pretty muscles are very majorly responsive to the input of the needle to stimulate that relaxation of the muscle and the nerves. Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I've seen as well, Dr. Krista, when they actually light up some of the acupuncture needles.
Yeah, we can do that.
So you're like a birthday cake. Do you blow it out after, make a wish? Or
sure, I make lots of wishes.
Okay.
So
why is that done?
Yeah, well, sometimes this is a very ancient practice, and they use moxa, which is a herb called mugwort. And they take the dried moxa and they put it on top of a needle. You can have it just loose or you can have it in little cakes. And you have a little piece of paper underneath. You light the moxa and it burns and it heats up the needle. So I don't use that very often. there's potential that, you know, it could fall on the patient, you might get scarring or something like that. So I use a heat lamp, an infrared heat lamp instead, and it heats up the needles. Gets the same sort of results without the scent, without the smoke.
Now, outside of people recovering from motor vehicle accidents such as myself, what else is acupuncture used for?
So obviously acupuncture is most well known for things like working with motor vehicle accident injuries, for recovery, any kind of muscle pain, back pain, headaches, stuff like that. However, I also use it for infertility, helping people with digestive ailments.
Irritable bowel syndrome?
Absolutely, irritable bowel syndrome. That's a pretty big topic. But yes, so the way acupuncture works is we could look at it from a couple of different perspectives. From a Chinese medicine perspective, which is, you know, thousands of years old, they always talk about it as manipulating the movement of qi, so energy, vital force. And there's different types of qi when it comes to how we describe it in Chinese medicine. But from a Western medicine or a science point of view, I always look at it as just I'm manipulating chemistry on a regular basis. So if I have an idea of what I'm trying to shift, I can use patterns of acupuncture points to manifest that kind of change, to stimulate that in a person. Do that a little bit repetitiously, and all of a sudden you've got a new body habit. And that can apply to digestive dysfunction, heart issues, mental discomfort, you know, like mental illness. Fertility. I mean, I can help with the increasing blood flow to the uterus and the ovaries or the testes for men, and unbelievable things that you can do with acupuncture.
Erectile dysfunction too probably helps, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay. Now, some people I've spoken to as well, Dr. Krista, they get a little nervous when you talk about acupuncture because they're worried that you might hit a nerve and cause some nerve damage or maybe even cause paralysis, a more extreme version.
You know,
how do you put those fears at ease?
I've never had a patient express that concern that they might get paralysis, but I guess it could be in their brain. I've never... We never try to intentionally hit a nerve. We know where they are in general because it's mapped out in the body really, really well. And we try to go maybe fairly close, but not to get that kind of response. You would have to needle pretty aggressively to damage a nerve, though. I mean, you can knock yourself, you know, and that's the kind of pressure and destruction that you're going to get. No, I can't imagine that a good acupuncturist, a qualified acupuncturist, would ever manipulate a needle to that degree.
Now, studying Chinese medicine and registered acupuncturist, have you spent any time in Asia?
Not yet.
Okay.
No, not yet. It was offered as a part of my practicum at the end of my 4 years of school, and I chose to stay in BC and do my practicum there. I will get to Asia at some point.
Now, you also suffer from Hashimoto's disease. Why don't you explain what that is and how it's really impacted your life?
Well, it changed the trajectory of my whole medical practice, actually. I diagnosed myself, actually, 3 years ago, and I got it confirmed by some medical testing. And it's Hashimoto's thyroiditis is the autoimmune disease of the thyroid. So 95% of people with hypothyroidism, almost exclusively women, it's because of Hashimoto, so it's autoimmune in nature, and that's not well known. I was really grateful that I knew that because of a lot of my infertility work, because a lot of my infertility patients have Hashimoto's, and it's very hard to maintain a pregnancy unless they learn to manage it. So anyways, when I found out that I had Hashimoto's, I changed everything the same day, and within a week, I was a different person.
Wow.
Yeah, and that was 3 years ago. I mean, I'm still trying to maintain remission, trying to get myself back to a healthy state like I used to be. But I know that if I had kept going and not done the work, I would be extremely sick today. Yeah, so I work really hard to help a lot of people with that and other autoimmune diseases today.
So, doctor, what changes did you make then in your lifestyle that really helped you?
It's a good question. I did do acupuncture. I incorporated that into my wellness plan. So for the first month, I did acupuncture for myself twice a week. I don't request that of every patient, but it really, really helped me. But I changed my diet. Everything fundamentally starts in the gut. And there's a lot of research around that supports it.
What did you stay away from in your diet?
I stayed away from, at the time for a month, I stayed away from all grain, specifically gluten, all dairy, nuts and seeds, and eggs for the first month.
That makes eating breakfast a challenge.
Well, yes, because
I love my toast, I love my eggs.
You have to change how you look at your breakfast.
Right.
I eat a savory breakfast now. It's incredible.
Okay.
But that was just for a month, and then since then I've stayed away exclusively from dairy and gluten. It's not actually that difficult. It's more a mental challenge, and that's why even the Chinese medicine and mixed with the functional medicine that I do is very much behavioral oriented. Because if that's not there, if you don't have a real quality why for getting well, I mean really quality why. It's not about having a baby or, for your grandkids or whatever. It's about where you want to be on that mountain, what view you want to see, as you age. If you don't have a quality why, it's pretty hard to get anybody motivated. So I had a quality why, I had lots of quality whys, and then just feeling so unwell, I just said, I'm going to do it. I did it, and in a week, it was I was like a different person.
You touched on autoimmune disorders earlier.
Yep.
How common are they today?
Oh, it's staggeringly common. I think I've been to an autoimmunity conference in Florida just recently. It was incredible. And you hear from these top experts in the field from a Western perspective and alternatives. And they talk about just how quickly it's ramping up worldwide, not just in North America, but North America is rampant. So literally hundreds of millions of people have autoimmune diseases, not all of whom are formally diagnosed perhaps. Just Hashimoto's alone is the #1 autoimmune disease on the planet. It was the first one ever defined actually in Western medicine, but it is the most common on the planet. That's incredible to think about, that the thyroid gets destroyed. So you can imagine the market for me is pretty open. Everybody who comes in nowadays to the clinic, I see them with different eyes. A lot of the people come in even just for pain. I would say 30–40% of those have a root in autoimmunity. So there's some immune dysfunction that is creating more of that inflammatory response. I never knew that for years. And
how about people with fibromyalgia?
Yeah, fibromyalgia,
osteoarthritis, perhaps?
Absolutely, they're all on the autoimmune spectrum, if not autoimmune already. So fibromyalgia can be classed autoimmune spectrum, so kind of more inflammatory, a little bit like autoimmune, or definitely autoimmune. You have to be able to tease that out through testing and questioning and getting to know the patient.
Now, you've talked in the past about focusing on disease management instead of trying to fix things. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah. I'm a firm believer you can't fix anything that isn't broken. So I don't like the idea of meeting somebody and instantly assuming they're broken. I like to think that the body is always in some kind of homeostatic balance, otherwise you wouldn't be here. It's just not necessarily a healthy balance. So I look to manage systems, help you learn how to manage your own ecology, your own system, so that you get to another level and another level and another level of wellness, climbing that mountain. I just help people pack the bags, at base camp and show them the way.
How about showing the way to somebody who's trying to have a baby?
Sure.
And they come to you with some fertility or reproductive issues. How can you really help them?
I love working with fertility patients. The end outcome is always exciting because I've never been able to have a baby of my own, and perhaps it was because of the Hashis that before it was firmly diagnosed. But when I get to help ladies and their partners have a baby, and then they get to come in at the end of it, and I get to hold the baby, it's pretty spectacular. It's I don't know, it's really wild. But acupuncture is one of the dominant tools that I use for helping not only women, but men boost their fertility because I can increase circulation to the reproductive organs, I can calm the mind, but I always try to assist them, I always have to assist them with nutrition, make sure it's quality nutrition, quality food, good sleep, looking at their stress management tools. So it's behavior, it's lifestyle, mixed with nutrition, and then I just use my tools to enrich that and speed it up and make it more likely that they get pregnant.
Eating healthy is really important. What about herbs and supplements?
Sure.
Some people say, it's just a waste of money. As long as I have all of the food groups covered and the New Canada Food Guide, I should be fine.
Yeah, the New Canada Food Guide it's an improvement for sure.
What did you like about it, the New Canada Food Guide?
I like that they took dairy out as a main food group. It's included in another one.
Dairy
now.
producers are not happy about it.
But they are part of it still. They didn't remove it. Yeah, it's just a little more balanced.
Okay. So yeah, supplements.
Supplements and herbs. So I'm a herbalist.
Okay.
By trade, and but I don't use a lot of. I use some herbs, especially with my fertility patients. You have to be more careful when you're dealing with autoimmunity because herbs are complex plants, and you can really trigger immune reactions if you don't know what you're doing. But
does echinacea help with colds? Or is that an
for
old...
some people, and you'd be surprised that there's quite a few people who are sensitive to echinacea.
Oh.
And so you're looking at which part of the immune system is it trying to supplement or support or trigger. So then I have to make a decision, you know, I have to know the patient to know what to ask. I don't say just everybody take echinacea, or everybody take ginseng, or everybody take valerian for sleep or something like that. So I'm very cautious. I err on the side of caution on a regular basis, and I choose herbs and supplements that have next to no fillers, no colors, no additives, because most of my patients are quite sensitive. They're autoimmune or dealing with fertility, and I just want to have healthy babies.
Surprisingly, many years ago, my doctor told me to drink more green tea because it actually helps the men's prostate. And I'm like, that's interesting, green tea. So
it's antioxidants, yeah.
Just the antioxidants, right? And I just love it for the taste with a little bit of honey, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, that's nice too. You can enjoy the tea while having the benefits, right?
Absolutely.
The antioxidants.
There's wonderful teas out there that you can use therapeutically if you do it every day. That's the kind of stuff I teach my patients. But quality really matters. And you know, yes, some people think that it's a waste of time or a waste of money and they should be able to get everything from their food. I wish that was true, but it isn't today. If you look at most of our foods, they're not really foods anymore. They're pretty butchered. You know, if you get fresh...
Especially if it's not free-range meat or eggs, right?
Well, that or your vegetables. I mean, they're covered in so many toxins or maybe grown in poor...
So washing your vegetables is pretty important then, I guess, right?
I think it goes beyond washing your vegetables.
Oh.
Yeah, I think it can get inside your, you know, it's going to be inside your vegetables, it's going to be in the root system going up into the plant. So, you know, I do coach my patients as much as possible eat organic, you know, or at least pesticide-free, because it lowers the burden on the liver. Lowers the burden on everything, actually, not just the liver, because those things lodge in the brain, in the heart, everywhere.
So Dr. Krista, quickly, why don't you explain for our viewers exactly what happens when somebody walks into your clinic?
We have to decide if it's predominantly for pain or if it's something more chronic, like infertility issues or autoimmunity or something like that, or autoimmune spectrum. If it was pain, they would come in. Once I meet with them, it'd be about a half-hour consult. We find out really deep dive what's happening for them, and they usually get a treatment. And then I do a course of treatments over a couple of weeks, 2 to 4 sessions, just to see how well they can improve. And if they do really well, we start spreading it out until they're well, you know, and then we maintain that. If it's chronic, though, it's a longer conversation. It's an hour and a half. It's a really deep dive. Often I have them do 3 very comprehensive questionnaires online, even before we meet. So I have a lot of health history prior to meeting. I look at all the blood work that they have available, any test work that they have. If I need them to do testing, we have some pretty top-of-the-line, world-class tests that I can get them to do. And then we sit down, we have a great conversation, do a lot of education. I'm very big on education for patients. The more they know, the more they're going to...
Well-informed, right?
The more compliant they're going to be, and then the more wins they're going to have. The higher up the mountain they go. And that's awesome. You know, and then we start on a course of treatments. So usually I do up a treatment plan for them for the next visit, and then we decide what modalities I'm going to use. Acupuncture is with some of them, especially fertility, but not for everybody. Lots of times it's just coaching.
Dr. Krista Coombs with AcuPlus Wellness Clinic. Thanks so much for joining me in studio today.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.
It's the winter time, and a lot of times this time of year we get the winter blahs. It affects a lot of people, including seniors, who a lot of times are shut in at home. Joining me now at the desk is retired Pastor Abe Block, who's also a senior in his own right. Welcome back to Bridge City News.
Thank you, thank you. Good to be here, Hal. Yeah.
So Abe, let's talk a bit about what seniors go through during the winter months. I mean, the best part about winter is Christmas, right? But how about some of the challenges the seniors really face nowadays?
Well, there are lots of challenges for seniors. One of them is, of course, the weather. Seniors hate the winter from the standpoint of the insecurity of walking. And many of them have canes and some of them have walkers. That's a handicap in the wintertime, anytime. And I have noticed, though, in particular, one place where seniors get hurt a lot, believe it or not, is on a churchyard.
Really?
Yes.
So a lot of the ice or snow there?
Because it seems to me to save finances, a lot of churches don't really clear their yards that well.
I see.
And so seniors come out of the yard, you know, and they're getting out, and some of them have walkers and stuff. First of all, walkers don't work well in that way. Canes don't work well in that weather. And any slip for a senior on the churchyard, boom.
And recovering is a lot longer too for
Recovering
seniors
is
too,
way
right?
longer.
You break a hip, I mean, whatever bone, it takes a lot longer, doesn't
And
it?
the thing is, our bones and stuff are fragile, much more so. They become brittle, obviously. You know, it's just the way it is. And so we as seniors struggle a little bit with that. And along with the weather, of course, too, is you don't get out as much because of that. And then loneliness creeps in. And
well, it's harder on the bones too, isn't it? The cold weather, the cold temperatures, you feel it a little bit more.
Well,
aches and pains.
I am one
That's
of
why
those,
you fly south of the winter, right?
Yeah, you're right. But I'm one of those lucky ones. I'm always hot.
Oh.
Yeah. Being as it is, I'm always hot, which is kind of good. But I know that my wife, for example, is always cold.
Right.
She doesn't like the winter at all because of the cold, and so we need to turn the heat up in the house.
Right.
And bundle up like crazy. Like when it comes to walking, we like to walk every day. Well, in the winter, we don't walk outside, you know, because of conditions and stuff like that. So we'll find places inside where we can walk, but we love to walk.
Maybe a treadmill, perhaps you can use that too. Or?
Oh, very much so. I think a lot of seniors have the treadmill. Yeah.
Okay.
But I think, speaking of that, I think that's an important thing for seniors to realize they need to do. They need to be at least a little active in order to keep the body functioning properly, to keep the mind functioning properly. And I think exercise in the winter is very important.
Maybe a little bit of shoveling too?
Well, yeah, but not too much.
Right.
I know that's a challenge.
How do you know when enough's enough? Just listen to your body?
Listen to your body. I think too many of us try to do it all at one shot, and we shouldn't. I know my wife and I moved into a condo situation. It's a ground floor condo, which is nice because we have yard, front and back and stuff. But all of our shoveling is taken care of. All the irrigation is taken care of. All the lawn cutting is taken care of. I thought I would really miss it because I love doing that kind of stuff.
Especially lawn cutting, the smell, a little bit of the exercise, the fresh air, the sunshine.
But I've enjoyed this simply because we also have grandchildren, children, great-grandchildren, and grandchildren all across Canada and into the States. So we spend a lot of time on the road going to visit them. Another thing seniors can do. Kids have work. They can't always come to visit you. You have time. You can go and visit them. We do a lot of that, and so it's nice to have this taken care of. I'm not always looking for somebody to cut my grass, to mow or to get rid of the snow and stuff like that.
Do we find many young people coming around door to door? I mean, to earn a few extra bucks. I used to do that as a kid. My buddies and I would take our shovel, go door to door, knocking on the doors, shoveling driveways and sidewalks for, I don't know, $10 or $5, whatever it was back then.
I think it's a great idea,
Yeah.
and I know that my grandchildren do that. In our area, of course, it's kind of a seniors complex, and like I said, well, it isn't a seniors complex, but it seems a lot of us seniors live there. But it's done for us, and so I don't see it in our area. But yeah, that does happen.
How about younger people helping out seniors when it comes to getting groceries? Do we see much of that these days?
I think it used to be more than it is nowadays. Nowadays, you've got this skip the dishes kind of a thing,
Right.
and you've got all this. You can phone in and get your grocery shopping done and just go and pick it up.
Right.
So you've got a lot of that, and so that doesn't happen quite as much anymore. And I think quite a few seniors are taking advantage of that, and I think a lot of others too. But I do feel that it's important for seniors to have focus and to have purpose.
Right.
And so they need to find that within the ability that they have.
How about volunteering?
Volunteering, I think, is a phenomenal way to do it. My wife and I volunteer twice a week at a thrift store, for example. We also volunteer in the church. We volunteer with our kids and grandkids. And we volunteer, for example, I'm president of our condo association. You know, there are so many opportunities, if you're just looking for them, where people could use your help. And as long as you have the ability to do something.
So it really is a win-win. You're helping somebody else.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, you're keeping mentally alert, sharp, focused, right?
Yeah.
And contributing back to the community?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the involvement also, for example, I love to teach Bible studies. I think that helps my mind stay alert. I do a lot of reading. That helps my mind stay alert. And I think anything that you can do within the limits that you feel comfortable with, mind you, anything that you can do that, to keep yourself focused and alert and with a purpose. I remember one couple I talked to, this was years ago, and they went out for breakfast every single day. And I said to them, don't you get sick and tired of that? That's our focus to start every day.
Right.
We don't want to just lie in bed or whatever. We know that we're going out for breakfast, and that gets us started in the day, and then at least we're in progress already. But I think too many seniors just sit around the house and watch television and do stuff like that.
Or maybe mope around. And just,
or mope around,
you
yeah.
know, maybe a pity party.
Become discouraged. Pity party. Become discouraged.
I can't do that. I'm such and such an age. Yes, you can do that. Get up, walk around, be more active. Like you said, get back to your community.
Yeah.
You know, maybe go read to other seniors, people who are maybe 10 or 15 years older than you are, who might be shut in, right?
I think we can easily do more sometimes than what we think we can do.
Mm-hmm.
But I had a mentor of mine years and years ago. We were talking about church, and we were talking about being involved in the church, not as a senior, but just as a younger person. And he looked at me and he said, it's amazing how many people come to me and say, I can't do that. And my question is, have you tried it? How do you know you can't till you've tried it? Mm-hmm. But you see, the problem is this word failure, and I think that applies to seniors. The word failure sticks in our minds so often.
What about confidence when it comes to driving during winter conditions? I know many seniors will say, you know what, or at dusk. You know, I can't see quite as well. I don't want to drive at that time. Wintertime, I hate driving. So they shut themselves in for 4 or 5 months of the year.
Yes.
They're not going anywhere because they don't trust themselves behind the wheel during snowy and icy conditions.
Well, I think there's safety in that. And if the ice conditions are that bad and if your visibility is that poor, that's one thing. Mm-hmm. But you don't have to drive long distances. Keep yourself active by just taking short little distances in your vehicle. But I know, for example, I talked to my sister who just moved from Charlotte, North Carolina.
Oh, beautiful area.
Back to Canada.
What? Why would you leave paradise?
Hey. Yeah. Well, she lost her husband down there. She's been down there for, I don't know, 15 years or something like that. And her family is up here. Her children and grandchildren are up in Canada, and she has a lot of siblings, brothers and sisters.
And we have a lot of mountains here too. We have a lot of beauty here as well, right?
We do over here,
yeah.
But she lives in Ontario.
Oh, okay.
And so she sold her car down there, and I talked to her just the other day, and I said, so what are you doing about a car? She said, I'm not getting one till spring. I said, why not? She said, I'm not going to start off in Canada in winter. I haven't driven in snow in 15 years. Right. So maybe that's a smart idea.
Did she ask if you still put the chains on the tires?
Yeah, right.
Steel studs? Remember the old days, the steel studs?
I did not realize that you can still have studs in your tires here. I thought they'd been outlawed.
Right.
But they haven't been.
Abe, how important is it? You know, I mean, you're well into your 81 years young.
81 years old.
81 years
Yes,
young.
81.
How important is it for you and for other seniors to really impart some of that wisdom and life experience to the younger generation? You know, to help them learn some valuable lessons along the way and say, look, this is the road I went down. Maybe this isn't the road you necessarily should go down. You know, just impart some of that wisdom and life experience with younger people.
The challenge with that, Hal, is, some of the people in the church that I attend right now have talked to me about that. Mm-hmm. You know, do we do a good job of helping or getting the wisdom from these people? You know, not our generation, our world caters to the youth. And I think they've pushed the seniors who have that wisdom and experience. They've pushed them out of the way. And I think sometimes the churches are doing the same thing. We cater to the youth, and then we have all these seniors over here who have a lot of ideas and wisdom and stuff, but we don't use it. And I've been encouraging the people in my church, you know, don't be afraid to ask. We don't need positions. That's the difference. I never need another position in the church. I've had lots of them. But come and ask me. And so that's the challenge. Do the young people want it? Am I pushing myself if I try and suggest it to them? Or do I sit back and wait till somebody asks for it? That's the challenge. To find that medium where you're free to offer it, but it would be nice if you could be asked. You feel better that way rather than, you don't want to give the impression you're all smart and everything, and you know you're going to force it on them. No, you don't want to do that at all.
But why do you think it is in Asian cultures, in particular in Japan and China, seniors are held in such high regard, such high esteem? We lift them up. But here in North America, like you said, a lot of times seniors are kind of pushed to the side.
I wish I had the answer
Different
for
mentality completely, isn't
yeah,
it?
it is. I wish I had the answer to that. I like that idea over there, you know. And if we could at least have a happy medium, put it somewhere in the middle. But our society, Hal, by and large, caters to youth in athletics, in music, in everything. I mean, you've got some of these guys that have hung on in music, you know, till they were older and older, and that's fine. But most of the stuff caters to the youth.
I was thinking of the Rolling Stones. Their first farewell tour was 1969.
Exactly.
And here we are, how many years later?
Exactly, yeah.
Right.
And, you know, there's some good stuff that seniors have to offer.
Right. What about colds and flus? This is the time of year many people are sick, even around here, around Bridge City News. We're missing a few of our regular team members here. But it's even, a lot of seniors are even more susceptible because their immune system may be even weaker.
It is.
Right?
It is. And the immunity is one thing, but even the whole idea of the lungs in particular, can't take the extremes anymore that they used to as you age. And I notice that even with myself, I have to be a little more careful. I'm not sure how some guys do it, but for example, you know, this is getting reflective up here. And I find in winter, for example, I have to wear a hat. If I don't wear a hat, I'm running the risk of picking up a cold, because that's where the heat of the body really escapes. And so I think for seniors to be careful, for example, for guys like my age, I don't, but I know a lot of guys that do and should, wrap a scarf around your neck, you know, to be more careful about the difference in the temperatures up there.
You should also be careful too if you're cold as a senior when it comes to fireplaces, especially a lot of the wood-burning fireplaces, right? The challenges there with the embers and not cleaning it up properly, and the flue. And
all of those things that I think pertain more so to seniors. As you age, your immune system weakens. As you age, your bones weaken, become more brittle. As you age, the mind even weakens, it seems. So whatever we can do to strengthen those on an ongoing basis, just to avoid some of this other stuff, I think that's good.
We've talked about some of the negative aspects of growing older, but Abe, why don't you share with our viewers in our closing moments here what you've really enjoyed about maturing and getting older?
Well, I think for one of my things is the responsibilities begin to lessen. Responsibilities directly, but responsibilities for interaction, for relationships, for passing along what you know. I think those are good things. But to me, one of the biggest satisfactions still is to be involved. I don't want to be sitting on the sidelines. I don't want to be sitting in the bench.
Be active.
I remember when I retired as a pastor and I came to the church I'm at now, a lot of people that used to be my parishioners at one of the churches all attend there now, and they came and said, "When are you going to preach?" And I said, "I'm not going to preach here. We got all kinds of good preachers over here. I'm going to sit and listen, but I can do Bible studies. I can teach over here. I can be involved." To me, not having the responsibility and the headaches, but having the joy of helping people.
Awesome. Retired Pastor Abe Locke, thanks so much for your time today and joining us here in studio.
Pleasure to be here.
Most of us probably take our eyesight for granted, but losing one's vision can severely have an impact on our lives. Yet it's incredible how successful people can be despite struggling with blindness. Joining me now from Calgary is Andrew Galster, Manager of Foundation Programs with the Canadian National Institute for the Blind. Welcome to BCN, Andrew.
Hello, thank you very much. I'm glad to be on with you.
Now let's discuss the blindness issue in our country. How many people have significant levels of impaired vision?
So CNIB has done some surveys around this, and we have 500,000 Canadians who are blind or partially sighted. And then there's an additional 5.5 million Canadians who actually have some sort of eye disease that could lead to partial sight or blindness as well.
Like I guess maybe a glaucoma may play a role as well?
Yes, absolutely. There's four major age-related conditions that play a huge role in vision loss in Canada, and I'll speak a little bit more to those in a little bit.
Yeah, certainly age plays a major role in vision loss, but how many younger Canadians are also impacted by blindness?
Yeah, so out of our client base in Canada, we actually have about 20% of our clients who are on the younger age of the spectrum. We call our working age. So that does equate to quite a few individuals on the younger spectrum as well.
I think for many of us, becoming blind would just be horrific, especially if you had your eyesight your entire life. How do people adjust to the significant life change?
Adjusting to the life change of vision loss is just like adjusting to any other life change. It takes intentional investment to learn new skills, to be able to adapt to your new environment. So just like with another situation, you look for places that you can go for help. So CNIB does offer a lot of help to people with this adjustment process. So we have things such as vision loss rehabilitation services that offer services to help people learn how to use a white cane or learn how to do independent living in this new environment. We also have people to teach assistive technology. And then on the foundation side of CNIB, we offer things like career support to help in transitioning with careers, because that might look differently after vision loss. And we also offer things like recreation opportunities that are specifically tailored to those with vision loss. And we actually offer things like peer support groups. And I wanted to highlight that we do offer a peer support group in Lethbridge in partnership with the Lions Club there.
Well, that's wonderful. So how are people who are blind live an independent and productive life?
Yeah, so again, it comes back to a lot of that training, right? We're looking that people absolutely can live an independent life. They just need to have the skills and be equipped to be able to do so. So things like technology. Technology is a big game changer in the world of vision loss today. It's enabling people to be able to do things that we never thought would have been possible a decade ago even.
You know, we often hear that if a person loses their eyesight, Andrew, other senses become more heightened, more sensitive. Is that true?
This is a piece of folklore that unfortunately is not true. However, it's like anything else in that if you lose the use of one sense, often you end up paying more attention to the other senses. So you can think of it this way. If you practice something, the more you practice it, the better you get at it. So if you're not relying as much on your eyesight due to vision loss, you're going to be relying on your other senses more. You're going to be practicing with them more. This is very evident in things like reading Braille. So if you or I were to try to read Braille today, our fingers aren't attuned to it. They're not sensitive enough to it. But through practice, you get to learn what the feeling is, and you really become familiar with what it is. So it's just a lot of practice, really.
Practice makes perfect. So do people still use a lot of Braille, or is new technology kind of replacing this?
Absolutely. Braille is an essential skill to independent living with vision loss. So a lot of people like to look at technology as a replacement for all Braille. It's just simply not the case. So with Braille, it's very similar to you or I learning to read. You know, we most likely learn to read using books, and we use that literacy skill in all sorts of areas of life outside of books. You know, we use it to read newspapers, we use it to read signs. Likewise, when you learn to read Braille, you're actually using that skill in more than just a book setting. So if you're in a public place, you can actually go up to some of the signs in public places and they'll have Braille on it that you can read. And knowing those Braille skills is absolutely essential to that independence piece. That being said, the technology that is available nowadays is actually starting to interact with Braille as well. So you can get Braille displays for your computer, or if you're an iPhone user, there's actually a Braille keyboard that is built right into your iOS system on your phone. So there's incredible interaction that happens, but Braille is absolutely still essential to the equation.
Well, that's fascinating with an iPhone as well. That's great, using that modern technology we talked about. Now, can you also talk to me a little bit about guide dogs? How effective are they, and are they still commonly used?
Absolutely. Guide dogs are a very effective tool for those who need to utilize them. It's very similar to other adaptive equipment out there in that, you know, it's not a fit for everybody. But for those who it is a fit for, they can be an absolutely great tool. They're able to help guide people through streets and through intersections and busy malls and any sort of situation where they need that augmented eyesight to help them travel independently. So again, it's not a solution for everybody, but for those who it is, it's an absolutely great solution. And some exciting news on that front, CNIB has actually recently launched our Guide Dogs program. So this will increase the choices available to Canadians for guide dogs across our country.
Do those who are visually impaired and have guide dogs run into any challenges, let's say taking their guide dogs into places of business or restaurants?
Absolutely. This is unfortunately still a big problem and that we're trying to tackle within our culture. Guide dogs are legislated to be able to go anywhere that their handler goes. It doesn't matter that if the place is a pet-free facility or not. It is an essential mobility device. It'd be equivalent to saying to somebody that, oh, you can leave your wheelchair outside while you come in and dine. It's just not a possibility. So we got a long ways to go on that. And fortunately, we have a lot of great advocates in CNIB and throughout the rest of the country who are really pushing to secure these rights that belong to Canadians.
Andrew, I'm constantly amazed whenever I observe someone using a white cane to aid walking in public places. How long does it actually take someone to master this?
So very similar to any other skill, the answer is it depends. So some people are able to pick the skill up fairly quick. You're looking at a matter of months. Others, it takes years of training. And it's not something that you just lay on the table once you're done with it. So we actually at CNIB offer refresher training to people as well. If they want to come back in and work with one of our orientation and mobility specialists, they can sharpen their skills again later. You and I both do professional development. It's very similar to that in that you want to keep up on the latest skills and the latest offerings.
We talked earlier a bit about glaucoma. There's also cataracts. What are some of the other leading causes of blindness? And is a lot of that maybe even preventable?
Yeah, so the 4 major age-related causes of blindness are cataracts, diabetic retinopathy, macular degeneration, and glaucoma. So those are what we call the big 4. The big 4, there is some degree of preventability. One of the most important things you can do is have regular checkups with your optometrist. They're able to spot these conditions early, and they're able to work with you to mitigate the symptoms and to be able to help you know where to go and what to do. So keep those checkups regular.
Now, can you explain what level of vision impairment actually qualifies as being legally blind?
Yeah, absolutely. So in Alberta, a visual acuity of 20/200 is what qualifies you as being legally blind, as well as some other factors like degree of vision. So some people don't think of that factor. We always think, 20/200 is the only factor, but degree of vision relates to how far you can see out to the sides. So if you don't have as much of a degree of vision, then you also will classify as legally blind in Alberta.
Now, you would certainly advise kids to wear protective eyewear when playing sports, but how about eye protection, especially for people who are maybe mowing the lawn in the summertime or using a snowblower in the wintertime?
Absolutely. I mean, we live in a day and age where technology is wonderful, but you still, for now, only get one set of eyes. So absolutely protect them. Wear those protective pieces of equipment. I know we all have those moments where we're feeling like going to the garage is a long ways to go to grab our safety glasses, but it is well worth the journey. It only takes one flying object, and you could potentially have your vision changed forever. So put those glasses on.
Andrew, how important is it to get your eyes checked regularly? And how often should it be? Maybe once a year, once every 2 years?
Absolutely. So as with any medical situation, prevention is the key for all of these age-related eye conditions. So we at the CNIB recommend that you get your eyes checked annually. So make that appointment once per year with your optometrist. We know that a lot of benefits plans do cover that as well. So get those eyes checked regularly for prevention.
Have there been any medical breakthroughs that you're aware of that have been able to help restore or improve eyesight?
Absolutely. So I'm not a scientist, so I won't speak too highly to this, but there is always ongoing research that's been happening. And as you know, we live in a very exciting time. I would encourage people to do some investigation around the research that is coming out. CNIB does have our national research department that does support research endeavors. So they feel free to reach out to them for more information on that.
Now, I know we all like to be independent, but how much of a difference does it make if someone volunteers some time to offer practical assistance to someone with vision loss?
Absolutely. So anybody who's able to help out, it's always a great help. So we've all been in a situation where we could do something and it would take a bit of effort, but it's always nice to have somebody to come alongside of you and to walk that walk and do that journey with you. Through the CNIB Foundation, we offer a Vision Mates program, and the Vision Mates program pairs a sighted individual with a non-sighted individual, and they're paired together to do any sort of task, whether it's reading the newspaper or helping to sort some clothes, or whether it's just to sit and to talk. It provides that companionship and that second set of eyes that can help you with a task and maybe make it a little easier to do something.
So from some of the physicians you've spoken with, Andrew, what were some of the symptoms that maybe they've talked about regarding their clients about potentially going blind?
Yeah, so some of the major symptoms that you want to be on the lookout for, you want to be looking out for any sort of blurred vision, any sort of changes in your prescription. If you're wearing glasses and you notice that you're getting a little blurrier than you used to, that's a great time to go checked out. Any sort of spots in your vision as well, those are worth making an appointment with your optometrist to discuss.
And thank you so much for educating us. Andrew Galster, Manager of Foundation Programs with the CNIB, thanks so much for joining me from Calgary.
Thank you.
On behalf of all of us here at Bridge City News, I'm Hal Roberts. God bless and have a great day.